Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo. Evening, gang!
Hello!
Welcome to another episode of the Welch Review.
I am your host, Sam, and this is your other host, Stefan.
Yes! It is me. Imagine if you said that and it was like a different person.
Just like the dog sitting there.
I think people would watch that, though.
That'd be fun.
You know, like if they just put that on for a talk show host and it's just like a celebrity talking to a dog.
Just like Stephen Colbert with like a dog next to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, more people pay attention to the dog.
That's probably true.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, today we're talking about this new sci-fi film from Neil Berger called Voyagers.
Shit, that's a big cast.
No, it's not. It just looks like that because like it's where you might know them from.
Okay.
So this is the DVD, right? You should definitely pick this up, and we're gonna get into why in a moment. So your head honchos, right? The big people in this film. You have Ty Sheridan, who plays Christopher, and you might know him from playing Scott Summers in X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. So he plays young Cyclops. He also was in the movie Mud with Matthew McConaughey. And he was in Ready Player One, right? So he was the main kid in that. And he plays, I said Christopher. Okay, so you have Ty Sheridan, right? Then you have Lily Rose Depp, who is Johnny Depp's daughter.
She does a good job.
And she does a really good job.
Big upgrade from Yoga Hoosers.
Absolutely, that movie. You know what? I'm not going to trash that movie because he made that to have fun with his daughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, respect to Kevin Smith for that. But anyway, Lily Rose Depp plays Sella, and she was in the Netflix film The King. She played a French princess who ends up marrying Henry V.
Was she?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that was her.
That's cool.
And then she was also briefly in Tusk as one of the clerks at the gas station.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, she was in Yoga Hoosers reprising that role of the gas
clerk.
station clerk
Yeah.
in an expanded role.
She's a clerk in the Clerks universe.
Yeah, so, I didn't even think of that, man.
Yeah.
So, like, again, definitely she's been on a upgrade since then.
Upward trend, yeah.
And then you have Fionn Whitehead as Zach. And the only Fionn I've ever heard of is Fionn... Oh, it's Theon. Never mind.
Greyjoy?
Yeah, it's Greyjoy. He reminds me of Greyjoy.
An equally crappy name.
Yes. And he was in Don't Tell a Soul, where he played an abusive and manipulative older brother. And he plays a tool really well.
Yeah, he reprises that Tool role in this movie.
But in space.
But Space Tool.
Space Tool.
Yeah.
And then he had like a smaller part in Christopher Nolan's war film Dunkirk. So we'll dive more into that. And then you have Shantae Adams as Phoebe, and she was in a film called Roxanne, Monsters and Men, Bad Hair, and The Photograph. And I can't say I have seen any of those films, so I don't know much to tell you. But if you liked it, she's in this. And then you also have Quintessa Swindell as Julie, and this film was kind of like her big thing.
Yeah.
She's next going to be seen in the new Shazam movie.
Okay.
So or not Shazam, but Shazam spin-off Black Adam.
Okay.
So she again is moving on up the ladder. Then you have Archie Madekwe as Kai, and he's in the Apple show C, where everyone's blind. They had like
I really like the
fight.
concept of that. I kind of want to watch that show, not because. Oh, okay. So I want to watch it because one, I really like Early Man, and it plays with a lot of like prehistoric ideas, but in the prehistoric future.
Yeah.
And I think that it's hysterical that there are nomadic blind people.
Yes.
Like that makes no sense at all. But anyways, keep going.
It looks really engaging, though. I agree. I want to see that, but I refuse to buy Apple. He was also in the horror film Midsummer. Right, like the one that was shot totally in daylight.
Yeah.
And he was also in Love, Death, and Robots Season 2.
Yeah.
The Ice episode. I haven't seen that, but I hear good things. Midsummer's scary as hell. Make you fear the sun.
The one with the ice whales?
That might be it.
Was it the first season or the second season?
Second season.
Yeah, it's the one with the ice whales.
Alright, so he's in that one.
Okay.
Then you have Isaac Hempstead Wright as Edward, and you might know him as Bran, the three-eyed raven.
Yeah, he's a space tool also. Well,
Yeah.
he's just a space pansy.
It's more like he just was Bran in space.
Yeah, but it's not like he was Bran when he was cool and he's like, we're gonna go past the wall. He's like Bran after he gets Three-Eye Raven.
Yeah, and he's like all monotone.
I have no emotion.
I look at clouds.
My brother died.
Like that. Just
3 of
looking
them.
past your soul. So he's in this. So obviously as Bran, he's also in the animated movie Box Trolls, a horror film called The Awakening, and a thriller called Closed Circuit. But I only know him as Bran, and I can't say I'm impressed with him. Then you have Vivek Kalra as Peter, and he was previously seen in Blinded by the Light, about a young Pakistani boy who falls in love with the music of Bruce Springsteen, which that's an amazing film, right? I like seeing him in other things. That's pretty good. Then you have Madison Hugh as Anda, and she's in the Disney show Bizaardvark. So she's clearly stepping away from that child.
Trying to grow up a little bit.
Trying to. Then you have Archie Renau as Alex, and Archie was in the Netflix show Shadow and Bone, and he's going to be in the Morbius the Vampire movie.
Okay.
For Sony, sorry. And then you have Wern Lee as Tayo, and before this, and presently he was in Superman and Lois, the new CW spin on Superman.
Yeah.
And then you have perhaps the heaviest hitter in this whole film, Colin Farrell as Richard.
Yeah.
Now, Colin Farrell has been in a variety of things, right? You got The Lobster, Seven Psychopaths, Daredevil as Bullseye, which I think people downplay that performance because he was great. He's also in... He's also in the Batman. He's playing the new Penguin. Oswald.
Really?
Yeah. He won an award for In Bruges, Golden Globe, where he played the hitman on the lam.
I like Colin Farrell.
I do too.
Yeah.
And then The Gentleman, which came out a year ago, and then SWAT, which is just great. And then, as mentioned, it's written and directed by Neil Berger, and he directed The Upside, which is an American remake of the French film The Intouchables. He directed the first Divergent movie. That series sucks, so...
Haha.
Yeah. He directed the film Limitless, which was great, and he executive produced the CBS TV show. It was canceled, but I don't know if it was good or not. And then, perhaps what I think is his best film is he directed The Illusionist.
Oh, that is a good
with Paul
time.
Giamatti and Edward Norton. That was just good.
Paul Giamatti.
So, that is who's in it and where you may have seen them from. So, Sam, why don't you tell us a little...
Oh, okay. So, as you may know, the planet's dying.
Facts.
Yeah. Hopefully we fix that. But anyways, in this world, they don't fix that. Instead, they're like, what if we make a whole bunch of babies, and then we raise them inside of a building so that they've never seen the sun before? You know, the idea is that if they raise all of these children in like containment with each other, then they won't miss the outside world when they inevitably put them on a spaceship and ship them off to a new planet. Right? So basically, it takes a semi-realistic look at how space travel would work, because their spaceship isn't just going to get there in like 5 years, right? It's going to take almost 3 generations. Maybe not 3 full generations, but 3 generations will have been born by the time they get to this planet. So it's going to take like 100 years, which is, I mean, in reality, it'd take much more than that, right? But this is also the future, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, near future. So, it only takes them about 100 years to get there. But so all of these kids are suspected to die before they get to the planet where they are trying to go to. Which is why they need to be prepared to live their entire life inside of a spaceship and not know the outside world. Now, Colin Farrell, he is kind of like their father mentor figure while they're growing up. He's the one who teaches them and gets them prepared for their spaceship trip, where they will die. And he decides, like, hey man, somebody's gonna need to like be with these kids to help guide them. Like, we can't just ship them off when they're like 12.
Yeah,
and be
unaccompanied minors in space.
Yeah, and be like, hey homie, oh, I got my chair stuck. and be like, hey, homie, good luck. Like, have fun. So Colin Farrell goes up with him, and everything's cool. Like, first 10 years, everything's solid. And then these kids are like 18, 19, right? Like, they're young adults. And they're like, hey, why do we have to drink this blue stuff? And the blue stuff is actually to dampen their hormones. That way they're not just reproducing willy-nilly in outer space, because they have a finite amount of resources. And although it sounds messed up, the plan is to have basically like mating seasons or mating years where people will reproduce to have the new generation.
But like in test tubes, right?
Essentially, yeah,
not
they're
like
test tube babies.
The actual act of...
Yeah, so it'd be like donors instead. And the idea is like you don't want people to like overpopulate the spaceship, because then there will be fights over resources and people will die, and it might kill off the whole scenario. Well, these kids figure out that the blue drink...
purple drink, blue drink.
That's right. They find out that the blue drink is not the best for you.
It's the baby killer.
Right? I mean, it's not, but what it does, again, is it kills off your hormones and your desires and, like, your lust. But they've been drinking it their entire life, right? This is what they know. So, in the beginning of the movie, they have, like, no emotions, but after they stop drinking the blue drink, their emotions go crazy. Also, Colin Farrell dies in outer space. Right around the time when they stop taking the blue drink. They think an alien did it. You'll have to decide for yourself. So anyways, they stop taking the blue drink, and everybody starts banging, right? Everybody. Except for, what's her name?
Sayla.
Yeah, who is Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter. She's like, I'm going to keep taking the blue drink. We were taking it for a reason. And basically, now that Colin Farrell's dead, you also need like a new commander for the ship. So it's what is
Ty Sheridan Christopher.
Yeah, Ready Player One steps up.
And he's like, Ready Player One is ready for takeoff.
I am the captain now. Yeah. So basically, they all vote and they elect.
Ready Player One.
Yeah, Ready Player One to be the new captain. And he kind of sucks at it. He's not good at keeping people under check. And his best friend, whose name is...
Theon.
Theon
Greyjoy in space.
Theon Greyjoy. Yeah, Space Greyjoy. He is a horrible person.
Yep.
Right? He's terrible. He's very power hungry. He's very controlling and manipulative. And he convinces everybody, well, also one, he sexually assaults Lily Rose Depp, which tells you that he's a bad person. And then two, he tells everybody that the alien murdered Colin Farrell, and he creates this factionalism within the ship, right? Basically, he does that, and then he takes over the food production center, and basically says, hey, since you didn't elect me because I sexually assaulted one of our childhood friends that we've known for our entire life, I'm just going to take over the food processing section, and if anybody else wants to eat, they can follow me instead of my ex-best friend. How's that sound? So everybody else decides, like, hey, I guess, well, not everybody, but like more than half the group decides, like, hey, we're going to eat food, that sounds like a good plan. But then again, some craziness happens when Greyjoy in space decides, hey, you might have the alien in you, so we're going to have to kill you. And it becomes Lord of the Flies in space. Yeah. And everybody's piggy.
And everybody's piggy.
That's right. So, yeah, basically they go around, like, murdering people, accusing them of having the alien inside of them. And then Ready Player One and Little Miss Depp have to take them down. I guess I shouldn't say little, although she is a petite human.
Little Miss Depp and Ready Player One.
Yeah, so together Yoga Hoosers and Ready Player One take down evil Greyjoy in space and his cabal of overly emotional teenagers who also manage to get space guns. So that's kind of the plot.
I wish that was like what the back of the DVD summary said. Like,
Maybe a little bit more concise.
That little, no man, I think that when Yoga Hoosers and Ready Player One team up, they'll guide you on some fun.
Through the ether?
Yeah, through the ether.
Anyways, yeah, so that's kind of the plot.
It's fantastic.
It's a good film. It has politics, it has action, it has romance, it has like a small coming of age story and like finding out where you kind of fit. And it deals with extremely unique circumstances, right? Because like most space movies are just like, oh, there's an alien in here. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one's like, I'm 18 and I've never had emotions before, and we have a small, confined government that we have to, or not government, but community that we have to run, and who's gonna lead us? And like, there's a lot going in here, and realistically, I guess it is just Lord of the Flies in space with older kids, but pretty good. Nobody's really made a Lord of the Flies in space movie before, at least that I know of.
Well, yeah, like when we watched it, our dad was like, yeah, this is like Lord of the Flies. It's like, yeah, I get it, Pops, like, that's awesome. You know, but it's real clear Neil Berger, like, took elements of A Brave New World, right? Specifically the whole idea of, like, you know, creating children in separation, right, in facilities, so they don't get attached to anything.
To do a specific job.
And then the idea of Lord of the Flies, right, in space, when there's no adult supervision, and it goes kind of haywire with power and greed and people not getting what they want.
That's also kind of Brave New World, though, because in Brave New World, they controlled people with, like, lust.
Yeah. No, so like it's all, like, he ties it very nicely back into, like, really good literature. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is when I first heard of Voyagers, I read, like, reviews that, like, trashed the movie. You know what I mean? So it was just, like, happenstance. I saw it at Best Buy, and I was like, you know what? This looks pretty good. Let's check this out.
Wait, people don't like this?
People trashed it. At least, not, like, I'm not saying, I don't know specifically, but certain reviews I read on it
were not positive
about it. They're like, oh, it's not inventive, it's nothing new, it's played out, and it's like, none of that's true, right? Perhaps it's taking elements, you know, from literature that's been read and studied and discussed and talked about, but it's applying it in a totally new setting and in a way that I feel like people now, you know, probably better understand it rather than reading like some of these longer, more in-depth, you know, novels. Not that they're bad, they're good, but I mean...
Yeah, this got horrible reviews.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure why, because it was pretty good.
It was well thought out, it was well acted. You know, they obviously are in space, but like, even with that whole spectacle of them being in space, they use sets really well. You know what I mean? It's not like it's new. They establish the ship. You're familiar with the areas of the ship, and they're constantly going back to these places, and it's well done.
In different ways.
Yeah. You know, and the storyline, like you said, like there's a little bit of everything, right? Or rather themes of, right, like trying to figure out where you belong. How do you navigate power and achieving it, right? Attraction to people, right? Relationships and how they move and change. You know, all of that's in there, and it is good. And it is both like a science fiction story as well as a love story as well as a survival tale. You know, it's really well done. And I guess the acting is a little bit tricky because they have to act as if they have no emotions. You know, so what did you think of that, right? Like, where they had to play characters who have no emotions? Like, did you find it convincing? Did you think it would, like, changed once they had, like, they weren't drinking the blue drink?
I mean, basically, a lot of them just got more intense, right? So... some of them changed a lot. I don't think that personalities changed a ton, besides that main bad guy, right? Like, he went from sucking to sucking harder.
Yeah.
But they didn't really display him sucking that much initially. Yeah, I think that everybody, personality-wise, kind of stayed the same, just, like, a little bit, like, you know, more intense and, you know, just... they displayed who they were more, right? Because it's not like they stopped being them; they just were them at 11 instead of at 6.
Well, I guess then, like, in taking that idea, right? Like, did you feel like anyone's performance really like stood out? Like, obviously, Space Greyjoy, right? Fionn Whitehead,
Yeah.
kind of stands out. Like, oh, you play a very convincing tool. Like, that's who you are, and I'm sure he's gonna get pigeonholed as like, oh,
a tool.
A tool.
Yeah.
Every movie he's gonna be in, he's gonna play a tool because in every movie he's been in, he's a tool. So like, aside from him, did it like?
I mean, I think Colin Farrell did a good job, and I think Lily Rose Depp did a good job. I mean, Colin Farrell, obviously a very seasoned actor.
Yeah.
Kind of expect him to do a good job
Right.
when he goes in, and I think that he did.
Did he hit it with a bullseye?
Yeah. Because he's a weirdo. But anyways, yeah, I think that he did a good job. He's not in most of the film, but what he is in, like, he's believable. Like, he's trying to build some kind of relationship, like a fatherly relationship with these kids. And at the same time, he's trying to maintain control on the ship. So he's kind of doing like a very fine balancing act of having to like lie to them sometimes to maintain order, but he doesn't like doing it. And then at the same time, he has to be strict with some of these kids who stop taking, the juice because they're coming into all of these emotions that they haven't experienced before. But at the same time, he has to be like a nurturing parent figure, right?
Yeah.
Like, he can't just be one or the other. So he balances the role of being a parent with being an administrator, right? And having to make sure that, like, nobody steps out of line, because if they do, everybody might just die.
Right.
So I think that he does a good job with that. Lily Rose Depp kind of plays the same character the entire film, right? Because she doesn't really stop taking the sauce. But there's a lot of different types of relationships that her character deals with, right? Whereas most of the other cast has like 2 settings. It's either like we banging, or we're like
comatose zombies.
Well, no, it's like with the rest of the cast. It's either like that. I guess 3. So it's either that, we're like people that have known each other for a long time but maybe don't really talk at all, or I'm trying to kill you. So there's
one
not
of 3 settings.
There's not a lot of range for most of the cast, right? But she also kind of is constantly walking a tight wire because she still kind of has those withdrawn emotions. So like, she's friends with Colin Farrell's character, and this actually makes a lot of like the male cast jealous in the movie, because they think that like her and Colin Farrell are like up to some tomfoolery, which of course they aren't. But so she has a friendship with Colin Farrell. At some points she acts as a leader. At other points, she falls in love with one of the other characters, or at least is into one of the other characters, and she also acts, as a friend to some of the other ones. So I think her character had more range in the relationships that she had than most of the other cast. But again, that being said, her character doesn't really change much, right? So she's always playing the same character, just in new settings.
Gotcha.
But I think that she did a good job, and she plays a very strong role. Like when stuff gets crappy, it's not like her character like runs away and looks for a big strong man to help her defend herself. She's like, oh, this guy's creeping on me, I'm gonna grab a knife.
And she's prepared.
Yeah, so like, she's never like looking for somebody to protect her. In fact, when other people try to protect her, she's like, listen, like, I got this, you know what I mean? So I think that that's something good. The movie doesn't just fall into like helpless female stereotypes. Yeah.
Solid. So guys, again, do not sleep on this movie. It is absolutely worth your time. It's really enjoyable. I think you'll dig it. and we will catch you next time.